What the hell?
Came up above the water
Sheesh.
for like 5 seconds, and then a big cigar-shaped thing, and then just went right. What?
Alright, y'all, this is the one you've been waiting for. This is the one we're gonna declassify and show you guys all the most updated information between extraterrestrials and humans, and the fact that they've been working together and have been in alliance for some time. They have made so much progress. Let's get right into it.
A long period of introduction into meeting, you know, an alien. And
that's crazy. J-Rod is a whole extraterrestrial that these guys had under captivity, basically interrogating it.
I have been told by a man who worked for the Defense Intelligence Agency for 23 years that the National Science Foundation of the United States has scientists that are meeting and collaborating with extraterrestrials in Antarctica in this deep underground.
It's coming out now, guys. Check it out. It's coming out.
One of the military people said to me, the walls had hieroglyphs, but the walls did not join with the ceiling. He said we can only conclude that we are dealing with technology that is neutralizing gravity. Advanced beings could deliberately have isolated Antarctica under deep ice and snow like a partition from the rest of the world as a terraforming strategy to cohabit on Earth while ensuring that the alien base at the South Pole would be hidden.
That's exactly how they do it. They put it right in front of you, but they hide it. You understand what I'm saying?
8 to 10 feet in broad daylight of this creature. And one of the things that doesn't come across in the film, when they saw this thing, they're looking like, what are we looking at here? They're walking through this field, and it's up against a cinder block wall. And one of them was looking at it and said, what is that? And it was crouched by the wall. It was weak and feeble. And one of them kind of screeched. Ah, like, what is that? And it turned, and it looked right at the girls, locked eye.
Aliens working with U.S.
That's crazy.
Government, Part 5.
Working with the United States government.
There's a lot of stories that we worked with the aliens at Area 51, or some say at a base nearby, kind of in the desert out there. And we've been working with them in underground labs, and they have been sharing information for us to enhance our technology.
Proof aliens want to communicate with humans.
Incredible phenomenon in northern Brazil.
Alright, these guys right here bugging me out. They just sitting around watching it though. They not even leaving. Check it out, yo. He's like super amazed right now.
Parece que caiu algo, né? Eu acho que caiu alguma coisa aí, meu, do céu, sei lá.
Yeah, he's super intrigued.
Porque é uma luz diferente, ela não aumenta.
I would have left though. I wouldn't have stood around checking it out. Look at him. He's doing his way too much due diligence, y'all.
Ei, volta! Ei, pai, e a fumaça dela é diferente, né? Caiu alguma coisa do céu, pai? Gente, foi alguma coisa que caiu do céu aí, gente. E detalhe, gente, não diminui e nem aumenta.
He's like doesn't even know he's looking at technology. He keeps thinking that the fire is getting bigger and smaller. I'm not calming down. You bugging. I thought they would have been trying to get up out of there though, but they literally want to stay there though, yo. Like they literally want to stay there, yo.
Olha, tá tipo um redemoinho lá, Ele tá entrando outro pra ali pra trás lá, tá lá, rapaz. Olha, tá indo outro pra ali, ó. Bora embora, puta. Olha, apareceu outro bem ali, ó. Apareceu outro bem ali, ó. Outro pra ali, tá começando bem ali, ó. Será que é fogo fácil? Olha lá, ó.
That's crazy. These guys think they looking at a fire. They really think they looking at a fire, gang. Yo, they sound crazy. It's walking. He said, I'm seeing AI. You don't see AI. It's walking. This is phenomenal. Oh, paranormal.
Já nasceu outro ali, gente, ó. Já nasceu na nossa frente, velho.
I would have been shook. He's wildin'. He's wild for the night.
Tá tendo bem ali, o outro pra ali, ó. Ó, tá dando outro ali, ó. Outro ali, outro ali, ó.
What are you doing? Recon? Like, what are you trying to do? Capture them? Trying to figure this guy out.
Eu nunca tinha visto isso, cara. Primeira vez. Como é o nome? E aonde tu ouviu isso? Cara, nunca vi isso na minha vida. E nem tem cheiro de fumaça, gente. Olha lá, vai começar outro bem ali, ó.
Yeah, it's not nothing burning, bro. It's not smoke, eh? I heard this story right here before, this specific one.
What if I told you that President Eisenhower may have signed a secret treaty with extraterrestrials that changed the course of human history?
I would totally agree. I would totally agree because I knew about this a long time ago. And when I used to tell my friends about this, they used to say I was tripping.
According to a captivating conspiracy theory, in 1954, Eisenhower met with otherworldly beings at Holloman Air Force Base in New Mexico, forging a clandestine agreement known as the Gata Treaty. This remarkable treaty allegedly allowed aliens to abduct a limited number of humans for experiments.
That's a
in
fact.
exchange for sharing their advanced technology with the US government, including propulsion systems and energy generation.
Yup.
In return, both parties agreed to keep their collaboration and the existence of extraterrestrial life a secret, potentially altering our world forever. Can't get enough of this enigmatic tale? Check out our full video.
Yeah, that's a whole fact, man. I'm telling y'all, 30 years ago when I found this information out, they said I was bugging, y'all. They said I was tripping. They said I ain't know I was on something.
Are here to help us ascend.
Check it out now.
The reasons why they're doing this is because we are them in human form. So they have some invested interest. Out of all the ET races that are here helping us, I would say the Pleiadians are the largest collective that is here helping us here at this time. The Pleiadians and the Arcturians have many souls that are incarnated here on Earth, but the Pleiadians have their own genetics embedded within us. Other ET races do as well, but the Pleiadians have the most similar DNA to us at this time. But there are many more ET races, the Sirians, the Blue Avians, the Andromedans. A lot of these ETs have their own ways of doing things, but they are working in accordance with the Galactic Council, the Divine Council. I would say over 99% of the ETs here on Earth are positive in nature, so there's nothing to be afraid of. But their energy can be intense sometimes, so you might have to tell them to back off.
This was humanity's first contact with aliens.
I don't know if he thinks he's 100% correct what he's talking about, but all these aliens that's coming over here and these extraterrestrial beings are not all malevolent and all of them are not benevolent. That's true. I feel like it's a little bit of both, like a mixture, you know what I mean? But we can't just single them out and say all of them is negative, you know what I mean?
Though he looked like a demon, but provided humans with the most advanced alien technology. He also cured...
Now this sounds like the straight, clear-cut story of Lucifer. This sounds like a clear-cut story of Satan, the way he's breaking this one down. Let's talk about
all human diseases and transformed Earth into a utopia. Humans called him the supreme leader, enjoying everything he brought. But as time went by, scientist Chris sensed something was wrong. He discovered that since the supreme leader arrived on Earth...
Alright, this is a whole dope movie right here. I need to look into this movie too, because it's definitely intriguing.
Human technology had
hit that like button on the way in.
Stagnated, with no further inventions or innovations. He quickly reported this discovery to his superiors. However, his superiors were indifferent, arguing that with alien technology, humans no longer needed to invent or create. His superior also told Chris something strange. The Supreme Leader wanted to take one of every species on Earth back with him. Chris urgently asked why, but his superior said he didn't know either. This made Chris even more puzzled. To understand the Supreme Leader's true intentions, he started reading a lot of books.
Notice he keeps calling him the Supreme Leader.
Finally, he made a startling discovery. The books had already recorded the Supreme Leader's previous visit to Earth, but our ancestors called him a demon. Had he done something terrible?
Alright, now y'all hear what they talking about, right? Now they're putting us in a movie, so pay attention.
Terrible to Earth? At that moment, girlfriend told Chris that the Supreme Leader was hosting a banquet the next day, inviting important figures from various countries, and she was on the invitation list. Chris immediately asked his girlfriend to take him with her. At the banquet, Chris publicly asked the Supreme...
Now, do you see this right now? Check this out, y'all. The Supreme Leader exposes himself and no one's scared. No one's scared. No one's looking at this demon like a demon anymore. Check it out.
Leader, why he was blocking human technology and taking Earth's species. Unexpected.
Look at the Supreme Leader. Look at the things that they putting in the movies right now, y'all.
The Supreme Leader didn't avoid the question and admitted it was all for humanity. He blocked technology to prevent humans from having the power to self-destruct, as he could solve all human problems.
Now, you see how they put that in this movie right here? And I bet you this is going over a lot of people's head. Check it out.
Humans just needed to continue enjoying life. The species he was taking were only for exhibition, with no other purpose. Seeing everyone still skeptical, the Supreme Leader, to prove his good intentions, chose a pregnant woman for a demonstration. He offered to do a genetic check.
Now, this is crazy. Look at the setup. Look at the trick bag, y'all.
On her unborn child, to ensure the child's health. He asked the woman to place her hand on a disc. Instantly, a dazzling white beam pierced the night sky. Everyone present was deeply shocked by the scene, beginning to believe the Supreme Leader meant them no harm. However, Chris keenly noticed there seemed to be a special symbol in the light column.
Now, you see what he did? The Supreme Leader basically gave them the truth. Because, see, this is the thing. A lot of human beings, they are so broken up over knowing the truth, right? And you know how they say you can't handle the truth? So he gave them the truth only to trick bag them into cooperating with what he was doing.
Quickly sketched the symbol, and back at home, Chris found that the symbol was a stellar coordinate, pointing to the Supreme Leader's home planet. It seemed that the Supreme Leader's offer to check the fetus was a lie, and there must be some unspeakable conspiracy in the light column.
That was absolutely phenomenal. We gotta check that movie out.
Aliens created humans as a weapon.
Why do you need our planet?
Our star was doomed to burn out.
Now, let me tell y'all something. All these movies use the truth in order to lie. Focus on what they not saying, Jedi.
We looked for a new place to live. Your planet is perfect. Your sun is a relatively young star. This planet will be habitable for a long time. Our solar system is quite a distance from yours.
I don't understand.
Since our colonization ship...
These are the 3 extraterrestrial races already on the planet Earth in contact with humans, part 2. First ones up on the list are the Lyrans. These extraterrestrial beings are described as cat-like humanoids with feline facial features and body types. They originate from the star system Lyra, also known as the Double Double.
That looks like those Avatar type people, but they wasn't blue.
Their home was destroyed in the Lyra-Draco War and have long since then evolved from their past warlike stages. Many of these beings left Lyra and came to Earth during the Lemurian and Atlantean periods. Next up on the list are the Sirians. Sirians were the creators of the original human race. They come from the Sirius star system, which includes the
I don't believe that one, but let's go.
brightest star in our night sky. Syrian people are aquatic by nature. And when arriving to Earth, their first encounters were with whales and dolphins. Lastly, the Draco Reptilians. Reptilians range from 6 to 8 feet tall, are telepathic, and can shapeshift, and are responsible for creating the Greys, as well as carrying out genetic experimentation on humanity. They originated from the Alpha Draconis star system. It is said that these beings have come to Earth to enslave all of humanity.
I believe that one.
Spacecraft flew out of the blue and landed. The occupant got out and stood in the grass and sat on the grass and talked to the man, and they had an exchange that lasted 20 minutes. And there have been 116 contacts since.
What?
Case involved a Mr. Billy.
Crazy.
In response to his question, they said that they come from the Pleiades. They said that they are here observing humanity, that they have information, some of the information is of a scientific nature, and that he would be asked to pass it to other people. They say that they are not gods, they're not superior people, they are men just like we are men. And he's taken hundreds of photographs of the Pleiadian spacecraft operating in Swiss airspace. And this has all been checked by the computer. The computer says that this object is on the order of 20 feet in diameter and about 120 yards away. It agrees with what the witness said about the diameter. He says it's 7 meters in diameter, it's about 21 feet. He took messages, he copied notes from the Pleiadians, wrote them down, over 2,000 pages worth. Here's a book of 600 pages that I have translated into English so far. This
Whoa. Whoa. He had the receipts, y'all.
The treaty stated, the aliens would not interfere in our affairs and we would not interfere in theirs. We were particularly interested that they do not interfere with anything that would affect our future, which has been violated.
All right. This is where more proof, substantial evidence we seeing right here, where they're breaking down how they did have a treaty with them, but the aliens started to break the treaty because, you know, they probably felt like they're not going to know how many humans we abducted. The whole treaty was about them abducting humans in exchange for higher technology and other things.
We would keep their presence on Earth a secret.
Right. This is how they cloaked among us so long, because our own government was helping them. You understand what I'm saying? So it was easier to keep the veil over our face, the smoke and mirror effect. You feel me?
They would furnish us with advanced technology and would...
And I told you, they also like basically said they knew like the cures to certain diseases and basically how to keep us living longer. So all these things was a part of the agreement that the government was into. And it actually is such a high classified topic that it even goes above some presidents.
Help us in our technological development. They would not make any treaty with any other Earth nation. They could abduct humans on a limited and periodic basis for the purpose of medical examination.
Now that was the gaff. They told us that that's what they was going to do. It was a medical examination type of thing, and, you know, for research and things of that measure. We had no idea they was mixing in with the genes.
In monitoring of our development with the stipulation that the humans would not be harmed, would be returned to their point of abduction.
Now you see the other sides of the agreement that the extraterrestrials had to do. They wasn't keeping their side.
That the humans would have no memory of the event, and that...
See that? They even said that they was going to wipe memories. So a lot of people could have been abducted, and a lot of people don't even know they was abducted. But as they watch these videos and tap into this frequency, you're going to start getting your memories back of your abduction. So brace yourself.
The alien nation would furnish MJ-12 with a list of all humans.
MJ-12. That's the Majestic 12, y'all. That's the 12 secret people that's in charge directly with the dealings with the extraterrestrials.
Contacts and abductees on a regularly scheduled basis, and this is not being done.
Yeah, they definitely didn't hold up their side of the bargain. They definitely broke off more than they could chew, right?
It was agreed that each nation would receive the ambassador of the other for as long as the treaty remained in force. It was further agreed that the alien nation and the United States would exchange 16 personnel each to the other with the purpose of learning each of the other.
I didn't even know that. So now we're hearing that 16 personnel was swapped. 16 of ours for 16 of theirs. 16 of theirs stay here. 16 of ours stay there. Now we're getting to the advancement of their treaty.
The alien guests would remain on Earth, and the human guests would travel to the alien point of origin for a specified period of time, then return, at which point a reverse...
Now, if the aliens is able to regress the memories, right? Don't you think, it really makes you think that they would send back humans with the memories they want us to have?
I have no knowledge whatsoever of what happened to those original 16 humans who left the Earth with the aliens.
Now you see that? Not only did they wipe out their memories, but they wiped them out too. They never came back. They never came back. That's why this whole treaty went out of whack.
It was also agreed that bases would be constructed underground for the use of the alien nation, and that 2 bases would be constructed for the joint use of the alien nation and the United States government. The base at Dulce is one. The base at S4 in the area known as Area 51 or Dreamland is the second.
That's right there, the proof right there. That, because we already knew, but we just needed somebody to put it in perspective about exactly where these bases are and exactly, you know, which one does what.
Exchange of technology would take place in the jointly occupied bases.
Okay, so as we know, as most people was concurrent with, every time they go to these bases down there, they are saying, you know, I've heard a story about one being that was down there and used to drink Drano. Maybe some of you are familiar with that story, but it's also so many stories of extraterrestrial entities working alongside human beings in these facilities.
These alien bases would be constructed under Indian reservations in the 4 corners of Utah, Colorado, New Mexico, and Arizona, and one would be constructed in Nevada in the area known as S4, located approximately 7 miles south of the western border of Area 51, otherwise known as Dreamland.
So that's what they doing. They're setting them up on Indian reservations, so that way, like, the government can't even come in there because these are Indian reservations. These guys are so smart and strategic with the moves that they make. We have to pay attention on the things that they're not doing and not saying.
All alien areas are under complete control of the Naval Department, and all personnel who work in these complexes receive their checks from the Navy.
It's getting thicker. So now the Navy is the one that's employing most of these workers in these facilities. That's I would have never thought that.
Construction of the bases began immediately, but progress was slow until large amounts of money were made available in 1957, and in the meantime, work continued on the Yellow Book with the
Wow, so they always getting that money to do it.
information derived from the guests.
Special facility at Area.
Dad, just imagine how much drug money they catching from drug traffickers going through there in that state, and they kicking it back to do stuff like that. That's crazy. Just imagine how much crystal methamphetamines that they're pumping out in order to further their madness. It's crazy. That's crazy, and I believe that.
Government employee says our governments are working with aliens.
Paul Hallier, former Minister of Defense of Canada, and he believes that life forms from space exist and are present on Earth. It's great to have you with us on our show. Why
He's about to go in.
UFOs are as real as the airplanes flying over our heads?
Well, because I know that they are. They've been, as a matter of fact, they've been visiting our planet for thousands of years, and one of the cases that would interest you most is during the Cold War in 1961, there were about 50 UFOs in formation flying south from Russia to...
What? I never knew that.
And the Supreme Allied Commander was very concerned and about ready to...
I would have been concerned too.
They turned around and went back over the North Pole. So they decided to do an investigation. They investigated for 3 years. And they decided that with absolute certainty that 4 different species at least, had been visiting this planet for thousands of years. So that's, we have a long history of UFOs, and of course...
Yeah, they've been here before us, gang. Come on now. You know that.
Few decades since we invented the atomic bomb, and they're very concerned about that and the fact that we might use it again, and because the whole cosmos is a unity and it affects not just us but other people in the cosmos, they're very much afraid that we might be stupid enough to start using atomic weapons again, and this would be very bad for us and for them as well.
That makes sense though. They not some stupid aliens.
Worked well with its new human crew members, since humans are eager to see all sorts of different worlds.
Alright, this is a quick AI generated something so you can just see how organically that humans work with aliens along missions and everything. Check it out.
However, when your ship comes across its first oceanic planet, the humans absolutely refuse to leave the ship. I'm not going. The human was stubbornly refusing to do his job. This was most unusual, as this one in particular had been very vocal about coming with us to explore. A noise of dissent starts rising from my crew. I shush then, and turn to the human side. Are all of you refusing? A cacophony of yes, I ain't going. Rang an answer. I tilt my head to the side. May I ask as to why? A bold one with red hair steps forward. She's loud, quite bossy, but efficient, and seems to be the spokesperson among the human crew. We humans don't do well in water. We are not made to live in it for long periods of time. Simply put, we can't swim too long. We can't breathe underwater, and we're not exactly good swimmers compared to you. We'd slow you down. I see. Thank you for explaining. Anything else? Yeah, but it's more on a personal level. Simply put, this planet gives me the creeps. A scent rings through the human crew. Can you explain why, exactly?
Yeah, humans be on other worlds with them, y'all.
Correct. That's not possible. A planet of this size, with so much water, and no trace of life. Not even a small one? Something's fishy about all that. Pardon the pun. You think this planet is hiding something? I don't know about hiding, but something is deeply wrong here. I can't back my feelings up with cold, hard facts, but I know something's... Murmurs of assent ring through the human crew once more. Another voice from a lanky one with wild brown hair rings out, full of curiosity. Sorry, what did you say the planet's name was? Again. Scans and database shows this planet has been identified and given the name Solaris. The lanky one's face contorts into a grimace. Oof, yeah, nope, best avoid that one. Nods from the human side brings out shrugs from my side. What was wrong with this planet?
In a leaked video that emerged on the internet, an alleged encounter between a man and an extraterrestrial...
Y'all believe this is real? Get in the comment section. Let me know if you think this is authentic footage or if this is CGI. Let me know. I think it's real. What do you think?
The encounter reportedly occurred during the nighttime, and due to the video's quality, the specific surroundings remain unidentified. It is believed that this encounter took place in 2017, although no official confirmation from the government has been provided. The video begins with a man standing a short distance away from what appears to be an extraterrestrial being, commonly referred to as a Grey. Both individuals face each other and maintain eye contact for several moments. The extraterrestrial's physical features resemble typical depictions of Greys: a hairless, pale grayish skin tone, large dark eyes, and a slight frame. The man remains calm throughout the encounter, showing no signs of distress or fear. Their interaction appears to be nonverbal, as no audible communication is captured in the leaked video. Despite this, their body language seems engaged and focused. The man and the extraterrestrial being exchange glances, perhaps attempting to convey meaning or understanding to one another. It is worth noting that any interpretation of their interaction remains speculative due to the lack of context provided. After a brief period of visual engagement, the man and the extraterrestrial reach out and firmly shake hands. This momentary physical contact suggests a mutual acknowledgement or agreement between the two parties. The handshake appears formal, devoid of any overt displays of emotion or excitement. Both individuals maintain a composed demeanor throughout the encounter, further adding to the enigmatic nature of the video. It is important to emphasize that the authenticity and veracity of this video remain unverified. As no official confirmation or statements have been released by the government or reputable sources, skepticism should be exercised when evaluating the footage. The leaked video serves as a piece of intriguing but unconfirmed evidence in the realm of alleged extraterrestrial encounters. As with any leaked material, its origin and intentions behind its release...
His body and his rib cage is looking authentic to me, y'all. What y'all think?
The lack of supporting information or corroboration adds further complexity to the assessment of this alleged encounter. Without official documentation or reliable sources, it is impossible to draw definitive conclusions regarding the nature and significance of this encounter. Until further evidence emerges or official disclosures are made, this leaked video remains an unverified curiosity within the realm of alleged extraterrestrial encounters.
Yeah, that was crazy right there. That shit looked real to me. That's crazy.
This was one of the most interesting alien encounter stories I've ever come across, but I'm wondering if the beings that she saw were actually aliens, or were they beings that exist in another realm? Sometimes people can accidentally tap into their third eye and see beings that exist in realms only visible to the third eye. This happens all the time with children, and adults usually shrug it off as some type of imaginary being or friend.
I've never seen a human that looked like that. I just always said that they were aliens, and after I tell you the story, you are going to say that they were aliens too. My dad was a Boy Scout leader. He didn't have any boys. He only had 5 girls. So by him being a Boy Scout leader, all of the men inside the Boy Scout troop and stuff said because he didn't have daughters, every now and then they told him that it would be okay for him to bring a daughter if they wanted to come and see how the Boy Scout meetings work and whatnot and stuff. So this particular night, he took my oldest sister, Henrietta. She was about 15, and he took me, and I must have been 7. We had to drop a little boy off that lived right down the street from us. So we were in the car, and he lived like about a block and a half down. And my dad had to walk him to the back house. So he told us to stay in the car. And this is nighttime. It's like about 9 o'clock at night. And as soon as he got into the gate and sort of started walking, we're sitting there. And then I look out the back window. Well, we lived on a dead-end street. It was a horse stable at the end. The horse stable had like a barn gate across there, and it was like some hay and stuff in the street. When I looked out the back window, I could see something at the horse farm down there. And I thought it was horses at first. I told my sister, I said, look, there's some little ponies that are playing down there. And she looked out the window and she said, those aren't ponies. She said, look at them. And when I really looked at them, they were only like about 4 feet tall, actually. And they were standing on their hind legs. And then they had their arms up. They didn't have fingers. They had hoofs. Like a horseshoe has like a hoof. So they had hoofs here, and they had hoofs on their feet, and they were standing up, and they were walking around and kind of playing. And they would bend down and they would scoop up hay, and then they throw it up in the air, and they would play some more. And they kept dancing, going like this. They kept playing in the street, just raising their arms and raising their legs. And one was a light pink color, and the other one was kind of bluish gray. They didn't have hair. They just had skin that was like pig skin, hairless skin. Their color came around their faces like this, and their face was the color of the inside of my palm. It was lighter, but their actual color started after their facial color. It was just smooth, gray skin, like a gray rat. The inside was all like the inside of my palm. Well, that was all light, all on the inside here. But then the color was on like the back of their legs and in their back and the backs.
That's phenomenal.
They felt playful, I guess, because they were doing that little dance, and they were having fun. At one point, they threw some hay up and looked straight at us. They stopped light, and then they went right back to the dancing and the playing and stuff. I didn't feel threatened or like they're gonna be evil or do something to us, but it just scared me. Well, they look so weird.
That was a crazy ill story. That might have definitely been something from another realm, though.
Federal government to conduct mind control and genetic experiments.
Right. As engineer, structural engineer with aerospace applications. I was involved in something very controversial, almost totally unbelievable to most of you. I was involved in building a base inside of Dulce, New Mexico, on the southwest part of the Archuleta Mesa.
Aliens have been trying to leave us technology for free energy devices for a very long time. Now, if you guys question the authenticity of crop circles, I highly suggest doing some research. And if you're too lazy to do the research, I've done it for you, and so is this man. This is Professor William Levengood, and he's been studying crop circles for a very, very long time. Now, what we noticed on the real crop circles is
if you're too lazy to do the research, we're going to do it for you.
seeds of the stalks would all explode out of the node, and the crops would coil up like this. And the magnetic energy at these sites is off the chart. Now, with that being said, some are fakes, not all possess these qualities. But when you look into these real ones, it's easy to see that they're trying to give us free energy device. This crop is placed in front of a windmill, and it displays magnetic wheel energy, something far more sustainable than windmills. And it's also free energy. Here's another magnetic
I never knew that.
off of a crop circle blueprint. And an Italian inventor named Umberto Berdau created this free energy device off this alien-created crop circle blueprint. There is absolutely no doubt that the UFOs are creating these crop circles to help us unlock the secrets of the universe. This one represents our 7 chakras, our 7 energy centers within the body. Unlocking these energy centers will help any individual tap into the secrets of the universe. You'll see many crop circles represent magnetic fields, and all these crop circles are created using extreme mathematical precision and divine sacred geometry. There is no doubt that the UFOs are trying to help humanity reach our full potential. Peace and love.
In a leaked video that emerged on the internet,
humanity finally meets an alien species. However, it takes us both a while to realize that they were just as excited to meet us as we were to meet them.
Raise shields. Prepare main cannons. Let's show these plague bearers the strength of a unified front. The ship hummed to life around them, energy coursing through its veins like blood. Jake could feel the vibrations through the deck plates, a testament to the power at their disposal. Suddenly, the view screen lit up with streaks of sickly green energy as the Corsair ships opened fire. The ship shuddered under the assault, but held firm. Shields holding at 85%. Lyra reported. The reinforcements Jake implemented are working. Jake allowed himself a small smile of satisfaction, but it was short-lived. The battle had only just begun. For what felt like hours, the space around them became a deadly dance of energy beams and explosive ordnance. Captain Zara's ship weaved through the onslaught with grace, returning fire with precision. But the Void Corsairs were relentless, their ships seemingly able to shrug off damage that should have crippled them. How are they still functional? Jake muttered, watching as a Corsair ship regenerated a gaping hole in its hull. It's like they're adapting. Lyra finished for him, her voice grim. The nanites allow their ships to evolve during battle, learning from each hit they take. Jake's mind raced. If the Corsairs could adapt, then so could they. Captain, he called out, an idea forming. What if we could use their own trick against them? Zara turned to him, intrigued despite the chaos of battle around them. Explain, quickly. The nanites we removed from your ship, they're still on board, right? Contained. Jake's words tumbled out in a rush. What if we could reprogram them? Turn them into a weapon against the Corsairs? Lyra's eyes widened. It's possible, but incredibly dangerous. One wrong move, and we could infect it.
A study out of Harvard finds that aliens might be living among us. Harvard University's Human Flourishing Program speculates UFOs may be spaceships visiting alien friends planted right here on Earth, that is. Those aliens then are disguised as humans trying to fit in. Study examines 4 different alien theories, including technologically advanced ancient human civilization, plus ETs from the future. The study says aliens could either live among us, underground, or inside the moon.
Wow, you hear that?
Are aliens humans from the future, and do they demonstrate to us that we have immense human potential that we have not even tapped into? And is possibly this the reason why the government wants to keep this a secret from us? Well, if you listen to Commander George Hoover, who is considered one of the most decorated and accomplished naval scientist of all times. This guy was a genius. This guy, back in the 40s at the Roswell, crash and everything, was responsible for so much of our naval and military breakthroughs. He was a pivotal part of the Roswell crash, and he, on several occasions, has said it was not a hoax, it was not a balloon, anything like that. He is on record saying that the Roswell crash he has reason to believe that these were beings from the future and that they were us from the future and that they possessed capabilities that we couldn't even dream of, like manipulating our consciousness, manipulating reality, that these were humans in the future, and that what it did is it demonstrated the abilities of the human being. Now, granted, we don't have those abilities necessarily right now, but it's only because they haven't been realized. It's not because they're not possible. So what if these abilities exist inside of us? We just haven't tapped into them because we've been told all of our lives, we don't have these abilities. That's magic. That's nonsense. That's crazy, right? Just go back to work and shut up. That's what we've been told our whole life. But when you listen to people like Commander Hoover, he said, and this is a naval scientist, one of the most decorated and smartest, considered a genius by all of his peers, and he was very spiritual too. And after studying the crash and evidently studying the occupants, came to the determination that they were humans in the future and that the insane abilities that they had are human abilities. These are not technological abilities. So could this explain possibly why the government seems to be so adamant about convincing us there aren't aliens and keeping all this under wraps? Is it because what if we figured out that there are aliens and they're actually us in the future, and that these abilities that they show us, these things that they can do, telepathic communication and instant healing and these kinds of things, what if we figured out, light bulb, and we can do that stuff too? And then we started doing it. And is this the thing that they're trying to suppress? Is the thing, this understanding of the immense human potential that we can learn from studying aliens, which in this case are actually future humans? And we're actually looking at the potential, meaning most people think we're just going to all kill ourselves and die in some sort of nuclear holocaust, right? But by seeing that there are these future humans coming back to us and they're in these advanced spacecraft and that they have these advanced psychic abilities and stuff, what this does is it shows us that we don't all kill ourselves. We do survive and we do thrive and we do ascend and we do figure out all these amazing things, right? And maybe the aliens are coming back. I say aliens. Maybe we are coming back to guide ourselves, and they know that they can't just come back and just tell us. It's like we couldn't go back to the caveman days and throw them a freaking iPhone and be like, hey caveman, here's an iPhone, figure it out. They know that there's such a gap that they can't just say, hey, here's a UFO, figure it out, right? Even though it seems like they have crashed, quite a few of them, I think with this purpose. I think that they are giving us little breadcrumbs to try to string us along this better path, right, to understanding. But they know they can't just do it all at once because there's too big of a gap in there. But what if we did wake up now? What if we did wake up as a species, as a society, and say, hey, you know what? These beings prove that we not only make it and we survive, but we thrive and we become basically these magical, like extreme, supreme conscious beings, right? Masters of technology and consciousness and space-time, being able to manipulate and, work everything. That's why they're not coming back and like bombing us and shooting us and killing us and stuff, because they are us, right? They do study us the same way we study humans, right? We go into random places around the world and study tribes and that kind of stuff, right? So they're coming back here same way like a researcher would come back. They're studying, right? But what it shows me is that we make it. We make it. And we don't only just make it, we far exceed our expectations, right?
I'm going to tell you a story about humanity. And like any good story, we need to start at the beginning. A lot of people want to know what the beginning was like for humanity. So after channeling for 40 years, the information has often been asked, where did we come from? The way the story goes from the information gathered from the channeling is as follows. Many hundreds of thousands of years ago, the natural hominid that evolved upon the earth, that we often refer to as Homo erectus, existed, and at one point, the story goes, an extraterrestrial race visited the earth. They came to earth to mine minerals that would help them create a balance on their planet. And in taking on this task, they began to realize that it was quite daunting and would take a long time, longer than they had. It was very important to balance out the weather on their planet with the minerals for a very, very short period of time. And so they needed help in order to do this. They began to look around and saw the natural hominids that had evolved here, who were close enough physically to the extraterrestrials that they thought perhaps if we can somehow train them to be of assistance in mining these minerals, the task will go faster. But being master geneticists, they felt that a way to accomplish this would be to take their own genetics and inject them into the hominids and create them to be a little bit more like the extraterrestrial race so they would be easier to train, so that they would be able to understand what the task was all about and help the extraterrestrials, who were called the Anu or the Anunnaki. So they undertook a program of genetic alteration where they introduced their own genetics into Homo erectus and other early hominids and began to create what became us, Homo sapiens. A lot of people talk about the idea of evolution, and they talk about the idea of thinking that there must have been a kind of missing link between early hominids and Homo sapiens, because there seems to be an evolutionary jump that occurred where suddenly we gained much more brain power, much more brain capacity, and it hasn't yet been fully satisfactorily explained how that occurred. It may be possible that this so-called missing link is actually the extraterrestrials that came to Earth so long ago and injected their DNA into the early hominid in order to create Homo sapiens. As humans were created, then they began to act as a workforce to help accelerate the mining operations that were so important to the ETs and allowed them to accomplish their task within a timely manner. However, the idea is that because the ETs were so advanced, these early humans began to kind of look upon them as godlike beings, and they began to think of them as something far above humanity. Also, the ETs may have acted to keep the humans at a certain level. In many of the stories that exist in early documents, such as the Bible, These stories are told, but they have been sort of mythologized. And I think they do represent something a little bit more literal. When it talks about the idea, such as the Garden of Eden, and how the gods did not want humans to be as smart as they are, to know the things that they knew, and how eating from the tree of knowledge caused them to be expelled from the Garden of Eden, so to speak. This may be a metaphor for what actually happened in terms of humans seeing the gods and wanting to understand what the gods knew, what the ETs knew. But the ETs wanted to prevent that, because then they would be like them and they would know the things they knew, and they couldn't necessarily use them as labor anymore. They would want independence, as any thinking being probably does. So they curtailed their knowledge, they curtailed their ability perhaps even to learn that knowledge by not necessarily turning on certain markers in our DNA, and by leaving those markers off, preventing us from actually being able to learn too much of what the ETs knew and how they operated, so that we wouldn't become equal to them. So the idea is that eventually the extraterrestrials on the planet that these beings came from may have in fact learned about what these ETs had done in creating Homo sapiens. Now, as far as the story goes, it's possible that they have breached their own laws by doing this. It may not have been something that they were actually allowed to do in creating a sentient species. And so the story goes that they were recalled to their own planet, and that from that point forward, once Homo sapiens had been created, the ETs that had recalled the group that came to Earth knew that they couldn't just abandon mankind. They had to guide them from that point forward until they were assured that mankind could perhaps take care of themselves, could understand basic relationships and basic laws, and could create a society that was self-sustaining. And so the ETs sought to teach mankind things like agriculture and mathematics and so on, so that humankind could become self-sustaining. But I think this is where the stories come from, of visitations from the gods over time, to lead us on certain paths, to teach us certain things, to watch over us and guide us. And this relationship, I think, solidified the idea that eventually became the religions of the world, where we know that there is something observing us. We know that there is something higher than us. Now, this in no way, shape, or form negates the idea of the spiritual nature of God or the spiritual nature of humanity. But I think these things have become enmeshed. These two stories have become intertwined and enmeshed with one another. And therefore, there is nowadays no separation between the idea of God as a spirit and the souls of humanity and the idea of who created us. But I think these are actually two distinctly different stories. While we do have a spiritual beginning, I think we also have a different physical beginning that began, as this story tells us, with the ETs that came to Earth and created Homo sapiens. But they have stayed around to guide us after recalling the group that created us, being that that creation was against their laws. So in guiding us, we now have all the stories of being led through the desert, of being taught how to build certain devices, how to create societies, how to have relationships. And this comes across, because the stories have been intertwined, as things like commandments from God, which I think in the early days was simply teaching humanity ways to live, ways to understand how not to fight each other and so on and so forth, how to get along, so that they knew that they could eventually leave us to our own devices, and that we could build societies that would one day allow us to sort of reclaim our position among the stars, being the children of extraterrestrial beings.
He broke that down.
Scan and look for documents, etc., etc. And I found an Excel spreadsheet that was actually called, or at least in the heading of the column, it said non-terrestrial officers. And I was like, oh my God, that's just
non-terrestrial officers.
Non-terrestrial officers with ranks and names.
Wow.
And then a separate sheet.
That's crazy.
With tabs for material transfer between ships.
So he just found a whole itinerary. A whole itinerary with alien names and everything. Humans working with them. They got that bleeped out.
But non-terrestrial officer thought, well, it must be, let's try and cut out all the possible conventional explanations first. I searched for that term, it was nowhere. It was nowhere at all. Now if we search for the term, you only find links to me and stuff that I've said.
Right, I see.
So it wasn't a standard thing in the military at all. Right. So I took that to be, they must have a secret space-based.
You ever heard about the aliens that contacted us in 1981 trying to tell us how to stop reincarnating as humans over and over and over again? You're foolish.
Oh,
That's what
shit.
I thought too, until I heard the full story. In 1981, Carla Rucker, who was a girl from Kentucky, began receiving telepathic contact from a group of entities calling themselves Ra. According to Rucker, these were the stick with me, the collective consciousness from a higher dimension of the planet Venus. They evolved 2.6 billion years ago into a higher dimension, and they came back to give us information and to tell us how to stop reincarnating and much more. Then over the next couple years, they kept this contact going, and there was 3 of them. There was Carla herself, there was Don, then there was also Jim, Jim wrote down everything. Don was the one asking questions. It was kind of written in a Q&A format, and because they were asking questions to this entity, but the entity was actually talking through Carla. And all of these conversations they actually put into a book series, actually I think 4 or 5 books, and it's called The Law of One. So what you're saying is she got possessed. I wouldn't say she was possessed because she had a Bible at her head in order to make contact with them. And also, this was all documented extensively. Like, they had microphones on the whole time. You can actually go listen to the original audios from 1981. Okay, so how do we stop reincarnating over and over then? Well, real quick, I think it's important to understand what the main message of Ra actually is. Here's a quote from Session 4. The law of one, though beyond the limitations of name, as you call vibratory sound complexes, may be approximated by stating that all things are one, that there is no polarity, there is no wrong, no right, no disharmony, but only identity. All is one, and that one is love light, or light/love, the infinite creator. So it's about everything being God. Kind of, but it's not a religious book at all. In the book, it actually says that it doesn't matter if you know about the book, The Law of One, and if you don't even know about what the Law of One actually is. That's fine. The only thing you need to do to move on is you need to love and be in service to others. Like get to heaven? Not in the traditional sense at all. In the Law of One philosophy, there are 7 major densities in our universe. Think of them as different thresholds that have been separated off.
And that's crazy because that's what it is. Love and light will conquer everything.
But they're just different vibrational pockets in which different bodies can exist.
Right, vibrational pockets. We got to remember that. Vibrational pockets.
Another way to think about it is think about the ocean. When you go down in the ocean, you need to have a specific body in order to go far enough down. And so what the Law of One is saying, what Ron is saying, is that you need to have different bodies for each density. And again, there's 7.
Makes sense.
7 major ones. So then reincarnation is kind of like just playing the game of different bodies with different experiences. So how does loving others get you to a higher density? Well, according to what they're telling us, it's actually just...
That makes a lot of sense, though.
Math. If you're more than 50% in service to others, then you'll move on in the positive polarization from this 3rd density to 4th density. But there's also the option to move on negatively, which means you're according to the Law of One, 95% or more in service to yourself. So there really is negative entities.
So anyway, I didn't think much about it
That's
at the
deep.
time, but I stood there and waited for her to come back. And as she returned, I guess she tripped on a wrinkle in the rug or her own feet or something. Anyway, I could see she was going to go right over straight. She didn't bend at the waist or anything. She didn't try to catch herself either. So I was standing close enough to reach out and grab her, and I did. I grabbed her left arm, and kind of stood her back up again. And as I did, the sleeve of her jumpsuit slid up. And by the way, she always wore a long sleeve jumpsuit, plus a bandana tied around her head. And in those days, they tied it under the chin. They didn't tie it back in the back like they do now, but she had it tied under her chin, and she had huge wraparound sunglasses on. And she wore this whole outfit indoors and out all the time. So anyway, I reached out and I grabbed her arm, and as I did, her sleeve slid up like this. And I found myself grabbing onto skin that didn't feel quite real. I don't know if any of you out there, yes I do too, some of you are old enough to remember those dolls that we used to have. The skin was guaranteed to feel real. Well, it sort of did, but not really. And I remember my doll Beverly, she had skin like that. And anyhow, as I grabbed onto Rachel's arm and stood her back up, then with both hands, the skin didn't feel real. Not like other people's anyway. To begin with, it felt really cool, and it was a hot evening. It should have felt hot because it was in that part of California at that time of year. It's pretty warm. So anyway, I stood there holding onto her for a minute, and then I realized the skin felt different, yeah. It was sort of spongy, like mushrooms. And you know, mushrooms have sort of a cool, they just have a spongy feel to them, and that was how the skin felt. Well, if that would have been the end of it, that would have been great. I wouldn't have thought much about it. But just then, as a result of the jerk to bring her back up to standing, her glasses slid down on her nose, and I found myself looking face to face, eyeball to eyeball almost, into her eyes, and I had never ever seen eyes like that in my whole life.
Wow.
Huge, kind of rounded in the middle next to the nose, and they went clear around onto the outside of her temples, and about a third of the way, between a third and a half of the way out. And they were avocado green, the inside of an avocado. And they had vertical black slits. And for a few seconds, I was pretty frightened because I'd never seen anything like that. And I just stood there. I was just drawn into her eyes almost. I'd never felt like that before either. It was bad enough not to see anything like it. I never felt that way before. And as I kept looking into her eyes, I could see that she was much more frightened than I was. And at that moment, my emotions turned to more of compassion because of how frightened she was. And I don't know exactly what she was fearful of, except that she had been discovered, obviously, that I realized that she wasn't what she was supposed to be. And then I almost felt a sort of love for her. And the really weird thing was that as I stood there looking into her eyes, I felt that she was really beautiful. And yet I hadn't seen her hair yet, because she still had the kerchief tied around her head. But something in her eyes made me feel compassion for her.
Helen said something just now in relating that story. It was the same thing, and we did not rehearse this part. She said something. She said she felt like she was drawn into Rachel's eyes. We'll come back to that later. This is Helen's drawing of Rachel. Now, Helen isn't really an artist.
Look at this, gang.
I think you can get the idea of she didn't look
She
quite
did a good
normal.
job drawing that.
Is there anything else you want to say about Rachel? I mean, you did eventually see her hair. It was...
Yes, I did. And it was a beautiful reddish blonde. It was kind of skimpy and wispy, and it sort of had a mind of its own, too. She tried to comb it and, have it look attractive, and she kept it short.
When
That was crazy.
aliens invaded Earth, they expected humanity to reach for nuclear weapons. They had experience in this. They knew how to deal with a few warheads. What they were not prepared for was the quantity possessed by humanity. Attention, Earth. We are the Sconshore, and we offer death or slavery. Admiral Gerd, commander of the 5th Sconshore Battle Fleet, was amused by the replies he received. Cute.
Chill run down his spine. But that's not all. Zora continued, her silver eyes blazing with determination. Our victory has not gone unnoticed.
Yeah, that's a triangle craft, y'all. That's made by humans. That's definitely alien tech re-engineered by humans. They call those triangles. Check them out. You're gonna get a good close-up on it too. Good camera gang. That joint powered up and took off. Probably interdimensional travel.
To come on here and share about
Let's check them out.
That happened to us last night. When we got home from visiting some family, we got home to our door being unlocked, both the top and bottom locks, which we know for sure were locked when we left because we had video camera footage of us locking and checking the door to make sure. And coming into our house, we noticed some fingerprints on some windows in our living room that looked like somebody was trying to push up the windows. Other than that, there were some items that were misplaced and not where we left them, but there was nothing missing. So we don't really know what that's about, but it kind of falls in line with some other weird things that have been happening to us over the last few weeks, ever since we got back from a trip to Virginia Beach, which is another reason why we wanted to record a video, because there's stuff that happened while we were there that we just wanted to put out into the world because it makes us both feel crazy, honestly, that we even experienced it. It sounds a little bit crazy. People are probably going to think we're nuts, Definitely. But something happened that night that was very strange. And the first week of July, right before 4th of July, we took a trip down to Virginia Beach. We had been there once before and we loved it because the hotel that we stayed at had a little private beach in the back that you could stay out all night. So we would chill there every night with our cooler, our chairs, and just hang out on the beach. So on our last night, we did that like we did every other night. We brought all of our stuff down to the beach to just chill before we had to leave in the morning. And we both noticed, first off, the sky looked weird. And we can share like a picture of it or video. Like it looked like the whole entire sky was covered in some sort of static, or like there was confetti all over the sky, just floating, ashes. It was really weird. So, well, whatever. We took note of it and just sat down and started hanging out. And we like to look up at the sky, look at the stars. So we were watching them, and I started noticing this star wiggling all over the place in the sky. It was moving, and I pointed it out to him, and he's looking at it. He sees it, so I start recording. And as I'm recording it, you can see it's changing colors, and it's zigzagging, wiggling, moving jaggedly everywhere. And all of a sudden, and I'm as far zoomed in as I can be on it at this point, but then all of a sudden it looks like it's just zooming in on its own on my screen. I don't think my phone was actually zooming in. Something was like happening to it that made it look like this big puff ball, and it was like orange. And watching it for a little bit, and then it just disappeared. So we're like, that's weird. What was that? And we keep watching it. We keep noticing quite a few stars that are moving, jaggedly across the sky. And there were also planes in the sky too, just to note. So we saw plenty of them. We could tell the difference. Like, these were not planes. There were not lights like that on them. Like, they were not planes.
And we've even seen a bunch of low-flying helicopters too.
And planes don't move the way these things were moving. So planes are very smooth in their movements. So notice a few more of these things, record some of them, and then we're just sitting there talking and we're saying how it feels really weird. And we're big believers in aliens, so we're like thinking maybe we're seeing some UFOs or some sort of alien activity, which is like interesting, intriguing to us. So we're like kind of excited as we're noticing all of this stuff in the sky, and we're talking, and he's like looking off behind me, and he has this like weird look on his face, and I remember asking him, like, what? Because he's just looking, and he wouldn't tell me in the moment because he thought it would freak me out, but he told me after the fact that he saw something, and you can share about that.
Yeah, so when she's sitting there talking to me, and I to be honest with you, I can't even remember what she was saying because I was so tunnel visioned on what I saw. When she was sitting there, she was sitting to my left, like how she is now, and I'm looking behind her, and I see something which looked like I thought was a kid, and meanwhile this was like in the middle of the night.
Yeah, it was like 11 o'clock at night, so
and
there was no one on the beach at this point.
Yeah, like there's nobody on the beach, and I'm looking behind her, and she's talking to me, and I see what looks like a child, real small, but it definitely wasn't a kid, come out of the water, like shooting out of the water, like quick, making no sound, no splashing, and there was like these reeds or bushes behind us.
No sound, a splash?
Whatever it was just shot straight into those and completely disappeared. And the thing that's weird about that is any kind of object, person, animal goes into or out of water, you're going to hear splashing. It's going to make some kind of a sound. There's going to be movement, even if you're running on the sand, anything, but there was no kind of movement. But what I saw was definitely not a kid. It wasn't a person. It was something that I can't honestly explain.
Yeah, so that was just weird, and I didn't hear about this until a little later on in the evening, but this is the way the events happen. So after that, looking at the stars some more, see another one moving, and I start recording it, and I'm full zoomed in, and this time it starts puffing up on its own, but it completely became invisible, like just disappeared into the sky. It blended in with the static or whatever that was in the sky. It completely blended into that, so you just could not see it anymore. And my phone screen then went black completely, and I had to stop recording it because no matter what I did, the screen would not turn off of black. So that was weird, and we're like, what the heck is this? And something I forgot to mention was it was a clear night this night, besides the static all in the sky. Like, it was a real clear night, no clouds. But after that happened, I look over and there's these just two clouds that kind of appeared out of nowhere. Like, we didn't notice them anywhere in the sky before. And they're moving, and they're coming quick. And all of a sudden, they're kind of directly in front of us, right where the star was that I was just recording, and they
that sounds scary.
One. And we're both like looking at it, and we're like, what the heck? Look at this cloud. Do you see this cloud? Because it had been moving so fast, and then it just stopped. It kind of froze there. And it's just getting bigger. And I look at him, I'm like, we need to go. And he's just staring at the clouds, and I'm like freaked out because they're getting bigger and they're coming closer, like towards the beach where we were, and they're just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And I repeat to him, I'm like, we need to go. So we start grabbing our shit. We debated even leaving it there, but we just grabbed it. I grabbed our chairs. He had the cooler, and I start booking it off the beach because it was just the weirdest feeling, like bad vibes. Like, it felt like we should.
Yeah, that shit sounds like a weird experience, y'all.
I grab our chairs, book it.
Very weird.
Like, I'm going, and I think he has the cooler, and he's right behind me, but he's notices something else, and
as I'm grabbing the cooler, she's already walking back to the room room with the beach chairs, and as I'm grabbing the cooler, I look out into the water again because those clouds were descending and it was freaking me out. And I look, and it looked like what would look like a cigar type thing literally come up out of the water like a submarine almost. And again, like the thing I saw that came running out of the water, it made no sound. No
What
noise.
the hell?
Came up above the water
Sheesh.
for like 5 seconds, and then a big cigar-shaped thing, and then just went right back
What?
down. And at that point, I was like, "Yes, no, screw this. I'm getting out of here." And she's already back.
I'm already back, and I, like I said, thought he was right behind me, and I turn around and I see him still on the beach. And he has the cooler, and he's trying to run down like the little pathway with it, and he's stuck, and he can't move the cooler. Meanwhile, like, we had been there for a few days. He moved this cooler back and forth on the beach, no problem, so many times. There was nothing on the ground that it was stuck on, and it was also empty. It had like 2 or 3 beers in there, so he could not move this cooler. He's trying to take it. He has both hands on it, and his feet are digging in the ground, and he's like yanking it, trying to go, and he could not move it. And then all of a sudden it was just like it let go, and he started running, and we just booked it to our room and locked ourselves in and just were staring at each other like, what the fuck just happened? And just kept asking
I would have
each
been
other
freaked out
about what we saw, to like validate each other, like, this is just what happened, right? Like, you saw that, like this, and like we both saw it. And
It's a good thing we both did see it, because one of us would have probably thought one of us was crazy.
yeah, it sounds ridiculous, it sounds crazy. And he even made a joke like, are we on drugs? Like, did we take something tonight? I'm like, no. And at that point, like, we got to the beach and had a drink, but we didn't even finish that one drink.
Yeah, we had one, we didn't even finish.
We didn't even finish it because all of this stuff was just crazy happening. Like, so we were not under the influence of anything. It was weird. Once we got to our hotel room, we were planning to leave the next morning, but we were questioning, like, should we leave tonight? Like, we had a really bad feeling. And we made the decision to leave. And we started packing our car. I locked it. I bring my keys inside, and I start going and gathering stuff. He's eating chips, just like standing there. And all of a sudden, I hear my car beep and lock. My keys are down on a table. There was nobody touched it. There was nobody in the parking lot that was doing anything with their car at the time. So it was just very weird. And then another weird thing that happened was, like, his phone, he wasn't using his phone at all. It was me recording everything. He had almost a full battery, and he went to grab his phone to, like, do something, and it was just off. And that was just weird. Could it be, I don't know. We don't know.
Can't explain it.
We don't know if anything, like, it just happened or if it has to do with something that we saw. We have no idea, but we left that night scared shitless, pretty much, because we had no idea what the heck we saw.
You did the right thing.
Like I said in the beginning, there's a lot of weird things that have happened ever since then, starting from the ride home from Virginia that night. And then there's been things that have been happening ever since, which we plan to share more about, but in another video, because this one's probably long. So,
and the ride home was just as weird as that same night. So we'll definitely be sharing more.
Yeah, we need part 2, gang.
So thanks for listening to.
They were sitting around the kitchen table with their family, and everybody freeze framed, like suspended animation, like spoon halfway to their mouth, and then the beings walk in. And then they have missing time, and the next thing they know, they come back. They
What
sit
the
down,
hell?
Everybody resumes. And to the people at the table, there was no gap in time, right? So this demonstrates the degree of power they wield, control they wield over this construct.
Wow, y'all heard that? It's crazy. That's crazy. Listen, gang, let me tell y'all something. This right here happens to be one of the best videos of information that has been relayed to us concerning this topic, because a lot of people don't have this information right here, and a lot of people haven't heard this information. So do me a favor, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned. We got a whole lot of more stuff coming, y'all. Salute.